This isn't about spending money.
The biggest deal in sports history.
With the biggest guaranteed contract in sports history.
It's about changing the game.
When I say I can't be critical of the Dodgers, they're doing what the system allows.
The Los Angeles Dodgers aren't just building a contender. They're exposing a system that was never designed to stop them.
The sport of baseball is in trouble if this continues.
For decades, the MLB has put rules in place to keep teams from pulling too far ahead. Luxury taxes, penalties, deterrents. The Dodgers, they looked at all of it and found a loophole. They're not breaking the rules. They're bending them so far that everyone else is left trying to catch up. This isn't another super team. It's a long-term plan built on money, deferrals, and a strategy the league doesn't have an answer for. So if you're wondering how this even happens, here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because this isn't a league where everyone's playing with the same deck of cards. Take a team like the Tampa Bay Rays. Their payroll usually sits around $90 million. That's not nothing. But in today's MLB, it's just survival money. Now, compare that to the Dodgers. Not millions, billions. And no, I'm not exaggerating.
I think that we're in a big market. We're expected to win.
What should worry small market teams is this. The Dodgers aren't trying to be subtle. It's one thing to spend quietly. It's another thing entirely to spend boldly, confidently, and without hesitation. Because once you realize they're not afraid of the bill, you start asking why. That's where the competitive balance tax comes in. On paper, it was supposed to fix all of this. Spend too much, get punished. Push too far, feel it in your wallet. The idea was pretty simple. Even the richest teams would eventually slow down. But the Dodgers ran the numbers, and they came to a clear conclusion. Paying the tax is cheaper than losing. That's the problem MLB didn't account for. We're talking deals that stretch so far out, players might be retired before the checks even start clearing. And the clearest example is Shohei Ohtani. 10 years, $700 million.
He's Michael Jordan, and whenever he goes, we're all going to go.
It's the biggest contract in baseball history, structured in a way that barely dents their present-day payroll, which is exactly why, even years down the road, the Dodgers still sit at the top of projected payrolls. This isn't a spending spree, it's a blueprint. And when you step back and look at the blueprint long-term, something familiar starts to emerge. The last time baseball saw something like this, you gotta go back to the late 1990s and early 2000s Yankees. A core that stayed together, money that never ran out, and a feeling every single season that the road to a championship ran through one team. That Yankees run didn't just produce titles, it produced inevitability. You knew they were gonna be there in October. You just didn't know who was gonna fail trying to stop them. That's what the Dodgers are building. They're locking in superstars and sustainability at the same time. They're not choosing between now and later, they're covering both. The Yankees dynasty was built in a different era, before luxury tax penalties really had teeth, before front offices truly understood how to weaponize contracts. The Dodgers are doing this in the modern game, with taxes, with penalties, with rules that were supposed to stop it, and they still found a way to stay ahead. That's what separates this from every other super team we've ever seen. Most dominant teams burn bright and fade. Windows close, bills come due. The Dodgers don't have a window. They have a runway. And if this keeps working, we're not talking about 1 or 2 championships. We're talking about a decade where the default expectation is simple. The Dodgers will be there at the end. Okay, when you look at the Dodgers sitting at the top of the payroll mountain, you start to realize this league isn't operating on one economy anymore. Los Angeles is playing a different game than teams in Pittsburgh, Kansas City, or Milwaukee. Parity isn't slipping, it's gone. And the reason comes down to one word: deferrals. After winning the 2024 World Series, most teams would pause. The Dodgers doubled down. They signed Blake Snell to 5 years and $182 million, a $52 million signing bonus, and $66 million pushed into the future, money that won't be paid until 2034 through 2046. On paper, that turns his luxury tax hit into about $31 million a year instead of the full $36 million. Then there's Tommy Edman, 5 years, $74 million. Luxury tax hit, just over $13 million a season. Add those deals to a roster already packed with massive contracts, and the number gets absurd. The Dodgers currently owe over $1.065 billion in deferred money, payments stretching all the way to 2047. And if that sounds crazy, it gets worse. In 2025, the Dodgers set an MLB record with a luxury tax payroll of $417 million. Their tax bill alone was $169 million, also a record. That penalty was larger than the entire payroll of 12 MLB teams, playoff teams included. That's when it became clear. This tax isn't slowing them down, it's just the cost of doing business. Luxury tax penalties are based on AAV, or annual average value, total contract divided by years. Simple. Except deferred money doesn't count the same. Future dollars are worth less than present ones. So when the Dodgers push payments decades down the road, the AAV drops massively. Shohei Ohtani's deal tells the whole story. 10 years, $700 million. That should be a $70 million AAV. Instead, because of deferrals, it lands around $46 million. That's a $24 million gap every single year. Money the Dodgers can immediately spend elsewhere. Now, fast forward. In 2038, the Dodgers will pay out over $102 million to players who haven't worn their uniform in over a decade. Same thing in 2039. Ohtani alone will receive $68 million a year from 2034 through 2043. Snell gets paid into 2046. Betts, Freeman, Will Smith, all with massive deferred money waiting. By the time Ohtani's final payment is made, kids born in 2025 will be old enough to enter the MLB draft. At this point, you might be asking the obvious question: why doesn't every team just do this? And the answer is simple. They can't. This strategy only works if you have massive, stable revenue and ownership willing to guarantee payments decades into the future. Small market teams just don't have that luxury. They don't have the cash flow, and they don't have the long-term security to promise money into the 2040s without risking their entire franchise. The Dodgers can do it because they know the money's going to be there. Their franchise value keeps climbing. Their revenue keeps growing. Teams like the Royals or the Reds don't get that safety net. They can't make those promises without gambling their future. And that's where the real problem starts. The Dodgers aren't breaking the rules. They've exposed a system where the rules only work for teams rich enough to bend them. In 2024, the Dodgers became the first MLB team ever to generate $1 billion in revenue. Only 3 other teams in all of professional sports have ever crossed that line: the Dallas Cowboys, Real Madrid, and Barcelona. Their franchise is now valued at $7.73 billion, second only to the Yankees. Now, compare that to the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays operate with a payroll of about $85 million, near the bottom of the league. Their entire franchise is valued at roughly $1.25 billion. The Dodgers are worth more than 6 times that much, and their annual revenue alone is more than 10 times what the Rays spend on their entire roster. Attendance tells the same story. The Dodgers averaged over 49,000 fans per game, nearly 20% more than the Yankees. They generate more than $4 million in ticket revenue every home game, while teams at the bottom of the league are closer to $500,000. That gap isn't closing, it's growing. Now, everything we've talked about so far is already a pretty serious issue, but it's not the nightmare. The nightmare is what this creates long term. This isn't a team going all in for one title and then resetting. This is a system designed to stay on top year after year. Think back to the early 2000s Lakers. Kobe and Shaq. Every season began with the assumption that they were the team to beat. Everyone else was just hoping to survive long enough to get a shot. That's what the Dodgers are building, except this time, the advantage isn't just talent, it's money. Since 2013, the Dodgers have made the playoffs 13 straight seasons. They've won 11 division titles.
But still unbroken, and division champs again.
They've captured multiple World Series championships,
With a comeback for the ages from down 5-0.
including back-to-back titles.
Up the middle, that's to the back, over to first to beat the champ. You gotta knock him out.
That's not how baseball usually works. Teams are supposed to have windows. You go all in, you contend, and eventually you gotta step back and rebuild. The Dodgers don't close their window, they extend it. And once this works, it's not gonna stop with them. The Yankees will follow. The Mets will follow. So will the Cubs, Red Sox, and Giants. Soon, baseball won't have one super team. It'll have 5 or 6 operating in a completely different tier. And everyone else just becomes irrelevant. We've seen this movie before. European soccer went down this exact road. The same teams win every year. Smaller markets stopped believing. Domestic interest faded because fans knew there was no realistic path to the top. Baseball can't survive that. This sport depends on regional hope, the idea that even a smaller market can catch lightning in a bottle, that a wildcard team can get hot, that October is unpredictable. But if the same handful of teams are outspending everyone else by hundreds of millions of dollars every year, that magic kind of disappears. It becomes predictable. It becomes transactional. Teams in Milwaukee, Cincinnati, and Tampa stop dreaming about championships and start planning for trades. That's a two-tier league, the haves and the have-nots. The teams that can defer $1 billion and the teams that can't. That's why the Dodgers are the MLB's worst nightmare. Not because they're winning, but because they're showing everyone else how to break the system. And the moment fans realize their teams have no real path forward, they stop caring. A shrinking audience doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly, quietly. And that's how sports die. MLB has tried adjusting thresholds, adding penalty tiers, even draft pick consequences. None of it's worked. The Dodgers blew past the highest threshold and paid a 110% tax rate without blinking. Because when the return is championships, the math is easy. An entire generation of fans could slowly disappear. Not because they stopped loving baseball, but because baseball stopped giving them a reason to believe.